York County is so much more than just a stop for gas along I-80. 17 County is filled with unique individuals with unique stories, just wanting to be told.
Welcome to another episode of 17 County Podcast, where we spotlight the people, projects, and progress powering growth across our region. From business expansion to community revitalization, we bring you behind the scenes of what's shaping our future. We're proud to recognize the organizations that make this podcast possible. A special thank you to the dedicated stakeholders investing in local impact. Central Valley Ag, Clutie Incorporated, Overland Ready Mix, Collins Aerospace, Meade Lumber Company, and Perennial Public Power District. We're also grateful for the continued support of our financial stakeholders, Henderson State Bank, Midwest Bank, and York State Bank, who help drive business sustainability across the county. Empowering innovation and reliability behind the scenes, we recognize K-Junction, OPPD, and Nebraska Public Power District. Your support fuels the stories we share and the future we're building together. Now, let's get into today's episode. Welcome today's guest, Eric Eckert, a creative powerhouse with a deep background in media and journalism. He's the go-to for website development, content production, and digital branding in York. On top of that, he's deeply involved in the local skateboarding community, where he helps organize and elevate grassroots efforts. Eric brings fresh energy, big ideas, and a passion for helping people tell their stories in engaging and authentic ways. Thank you so much for joining me today for the podcast. I've seen you around a lot, so I'm really excited to learn a little bit more.
I am around a lot.
Yeah, into a little bit of everything, it seems like.
For sure.
So I guess tell us about you. Where did this journey start, especially in the media world?
Yeah, it's interesting. I never expected to be in the media. I always liked photography, videography. I grew up in eastern Nebraska. Came here in 99 for York College and graduated, was working at Epworth Village. And one of my former classmates was working at the News-Times, and he had a position underneath him available to basically just do cool stuff. We did photos, videos, websites, all sorts of things. And that was really my entrance into it. And really, it just kind of has gone crazy from that point on. So that was 2007, and here we are almost 20 years later, still kind of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So journalism wasn't even on your radar up until that point.
No, I've never really had much interest in journalism. It was just more kind of the creative side of things, the photos, the videos.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think everybody can see journalism has changed a lot in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
How did that early work shape what you do today?
You know, it's interesting because I feel like I think what I learned the most through like journalism at the News-Times and just working there was the importance of relationship building and the trust that comes along with relationships you have, especially in a small town. And I know that a lot of my business that I currently have now is there because of trust and relationships that I built, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It just makes such a huge difference when people know they can rely on you, and I do think it helps. I'm all over town. I'm constantly, whether it's shooting photos of the fair or going to meetings and walking around downtown and seeing people, or with skate park type stuff. It's just learning how important it is to have those actual relationships with people. And I think the big thing I learned too was you have big corporations or other businesses that do similar things that I do, but they're from out of town and they don't know York and they don't see what's going on here. And I just feel like that value of knowing the community you're working within is really important.
Absolutely. And before we dig any deeper, I kind of talked about it in your introduction, but you are a business owner.
Yep.
What all do you do?
What don't I do? My primary business is building small business websites, and I really enjoy working with small businesses and helping them to establish their web presence. I also shoot photos, I shoot videos, I publish an annual skateboarding magazine. I draw mazes. Pretty much, I do a whole lot of things.
I have to ask, what is the maze thing?
I started drawing mazes when I was in first grade, and I never really stopped. And then it got really popular. I was fortunate enough to hit social media during a time frame where it really was easy to reach out and hit people and get my art noticed, and was able to do a lot of really cool things. Broken Guinness World Record 3 times.
Whoa.
I was flown to Los Angeles for a week to do a mural on a wall. I've been published in lots of books and magazines and all sorts of stuff. So super fortunate to have some weird thing that I started drawing when I was a little kid be able to benefit me throughout the years.
Amazing. I did not know about you. So wow. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Kind of segueing back into the media.
For sure.
Let's talk about media just as a whole. What do you think is the most misunderstood part of media right now, especially in small communities?
It's interesting. I think one aspect that is misunderstood is journalism. Within media, people think, journalism's dying. And it's like, well, I think newspapers are dying. And I truly think they are. And I think that's maybe unfortunate, but it's also one of those things that it's kind of like you can either adapt and change, or you can try to stay on the sinking ship. What's not dying, though, is journalism itself. And there's even more of a need today than maybe ever to have good local journalism. And with having websites and social media and other stuff, it's the perfect outlet to be able to take that and reach a wide audience in a cost-effective way. And that's something that, I literally was saying 15 years ago, we need to be focused on web with the news. And how can we reach more people? How can we monetize it? How can we build revenue? And I think too many people were just tied to that concept of a physical newspaper. But then, like I said, I think a lot of consumers tie the concept of journalism to a physical newspaper, and not the idea that journalism can exist, whether it's newspaper, whether it's radio, whether it's television, or whether it's just a website that features news. It's the important aspect of it is getting information out to the people who need to read it in an efficient way. Right. And so, I think there's that. And then I think there's just this concept. The other thing I constantly talk to people about with media is, social media and the benefits and the negatives and the, I have a lot of people say, well, I don't need a website. I've got a Facebook page. And it's like, okay, well, what can you put a PDF on that Facebook page, and a month from now, can someone find it? You don't have control over that stuff. And so that's another thing I deal with a lot, I feel like, in my line of work, is showing people how a website can be so beneficial because you can really control the look, the feel, everything about it. And social media, at the end of the day, if Mark Zuckerberg decides to change Facebook, that's not up to you, and you have to either abide by it or get off of it. And I like things where people are in control of their own branding and their own content.
Absolutely. You kind of alluded to it earlier, but there has been a big move from print media to digital media. What was that transition like, and have you seen any effect on local engagement come out of that?
I remember going to meetings in Omaha when we first got bought out by, the World Herald, and it was Berkshire Hathaway and Berkshire Media. And it was interesting because there would be a handful of us that were all about, like, how can we make the websites better? And then we had these people who literally were saying, we're not putting any of our news online. Well, we're not going to do it. And if we do it, it'll be a week after the newspaper comes out. And then it was funny because, a few years, 5 years, maybe even 10 years later, some of those same people would be seeing the benefits of it. And some of them even would be like excited about the websites. They're like, oh, we did this on our website and we got this much traffic. And I just think that, unfortunately, news media specifically has been, I don't know a better way to say it, but it's been run by like old men for a long time.
Okay.
And I think a lot of them are very stuck in their ways. And I think that as some of those people are moving out and you're getting some not necessarily even younger people, but just people who are more willing to adapt and change. You're just seeing how everything can evolve. And I think the consumer side of it too is people learning how to consume their media. And then on the opposite side of that, it's how do you reach out to people? I tell everybody use social media, because it used to be, how do we get people to come to us? So before we had social media, if you had a website and you wanted people to come to it, you had to advertise the domain name. You had to tell people about it. You had to give them a reason to come to your site. And then once social media started, it was, well, how much do we put on social media? And I always said, that's a great way to get to your audience. Rather than try to get your audience to come to you, you're going to where they're at. And that was probably the biggest change that I've seen in media, is instead of trying to get them to your place, it's go to where they are. And social media has been super beneficial because, if I go on Facebook and you have a page with thousands of followers, you have the ability to reach those people on a platform that they're consistently on themselves. And you're not having to actively be like, hey, go on Facebook and look at my page. They're on it. People are on social media all day, every day, and they're finding stuff. But once again, the only negative with that is now Facebook wants to monetize it. So if you have 1,000 followers, they're only going to show it to 100 and hope that you pay to give it to the rest, which is super frustrating. But I mean, that's capitalism for you. So.
Right. Fair enough. Yeah. So you work a lot with local businesses, small businesses. What kind of projects do you enjoy the most?
I think for me, it's just solving problems for people, even if it's just as simple as they need to get a website for their business. Maybe it's not a super complicated website. Maybe it doesn't have anything crazy involved with building it. But it's just this idea that, hey, we don't even have a website, and it's 2025, and we need to have a web presence. We need to have a place where we can direct people to get more information. I always say that it adds legitimacy to your business, no matter who you are, how long you've been around. If someone Googles your name and either doesn't find anything or the stuff they find looks old and outdated, they're going to tend to associate that with your brand. And I think you can just add that legitimacy. So for me, being able to be that person or business that helps these people out, and I just like taking that aspect off of their plate. Sure. A lot of these people are busy. They've got their businesses that they're running, and they're overwhelmed and overworked. And the last thing they can think that they would want to work on is a website. And so being that person that can take care of it for them, I don't know, it's super fulfilling. And I just work with a lot of really nice, great people. And so I like having those relationships.
Absolutely. And so if I were a business and I wanted to, get started with my media presence, my website, but I have no idea. I'm not creative. I have no idea where to start. How would you guide somebody in that situation?
For me, it's kind of just having conversations, talking about, do you have ideas? And if you don't have ideas, do you have branding? Do you have a logo? Do you have colors? Some people have nothing, and that's okay. One thing I like to do is I like the trial and error of it. I think too many big website companies are kind of a pay us 10 grand, we build you a website. It's going to maybe look nice and sharp and everything, but then it's kind of, that's what you get. And then they're gone, and that's that. Me, I like the evolving website concept, which is let's build it. And maybe it's not perfect, and maybe it's not everything you want. So then 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now, a year from now, let's change the whole thing. Let's mix things around. I hate this idea that you're going to pay money for something and then you're just kind of stuck with it. It's this idea of as your needs and as your clients' needs change, your website should change as well. I give lots of people the example of York Parks and Rec. Cherie and I were looking at their statistics, and we noticed that fairly consistently the employment page was getting more traffic than we anticipated. And Cherie said, hey, that's a page we never even really considered much, but it's getting decent traffic. We should focus some more content on that. So that's something we did. We had other people asking about another page on the York Parks and Rec site that they were kind of having trouble finding. Now, to us, we look at the site all the time, so we know exactly where stuff is.
Right.
But the fact that multiple people said, hey, I can't find that, told us we need to make it easier to find for people. So we put a button on the homepage, and shockingly, we don't have people asking where that content is anymore. And that's the sort of stuff that I enjoy as well, of helping people realize this isn't something that's set in stone and you're stuck with. If something pops up, if you have a big thing that happens every winter, okay, then let's make that your homepage all winter long. We can make those changes because I'm here, I'm willing, and that's part of what I sell, is the ability to make those changes on a regular basis.
Absolutely. As you're talking, it's really obvious that not only do you care about the businesses that you work with, but you're also readily available.
Yep.
How do you balance that? I mean, being on call all the time, that's difficult.
Yeah, no, if you ask my wife, she would say I need better boundaries. And I, to some extent, maybe I do, but coming from a job, when I worked at the paper, technically, 8 to 5, but Mel and I would, there's a car accident at 9 at night. We'd go out and shoot photos and videos, then go in and put that up. And this is the fairs over the weekend, work 40 hours over a weekend. And that sort of stuff was kind of always what I was doing. And I like the idea of getting things done and working when it fits my schedule. And I think for me, working from home and doing that, it's what I enjoy. And, there's times where I'll get an email on a Sunday night at 10 o'clock and I think, I'll just take care of this. Why save it to Monday if I can just get it done now? And so for me, I probably don't do as good a job as I should. That's just something that I'm trying to learn. I still take my laptop on vacations and I get scolded by my wife. But the other problem is that I'm a single business owner with no employees. So if something comes up, I'd rather be available to take care of an emergency than tell somebody, sorry, you have to wait. And to be fair, most of my clients are really aware of, you're on vacation, we're not going to bug you. Or if they do, it's because it's an actual emergency. So sure. I think for right now, it's working out pretty well.
Okay, fair enough. Going a little bit further with that balance of everything, you have a really unique position because it really blends the technical with the creative side of things. How do you balance that? Is there one side that you prefer over the other?
Oh, I 100% prefer the creative side. The technical side is just one of those, you just have to deal with it because it's part of it. If I'm building a website, there's drag and drop website builders that exist nowadays. People can go on and build their own website. The basics of it are not that complicated. And I've always told people, if you can do something yourself, you shouldn't pay somebody else to do it. And I've had people that I start working with, and then eventually they take over their sites themselves and don't pay me, and I lose the business. And that stinks on one hand, but on the other hand, I always say, if you can cut your own hair, you shouldn't pay a barber to do it. But once again, it's the time and the effort. Do they have it? For me, balancing the creative and the technical side is just part of what it is. And I do enjoy them both. And I think the problem-solving side, I'm working on a website literally this morning, and I've got some issues with the security certificate on it. And so when you go to the site, it pops up, it's saying it's not secure. And I know how to fix it, it's just not fixing. And so sometimes that stuff gets frustrating and old when I'd rather just be making things that are interesting and artistic. But I do kind of like the learning process of it, because then when it happens next time, I think, I know how to fix that, I can take care of it. So yeah, it's a necessary evil to be able to do the tech side when I'd rather just do creative work.
Makes sense. Absolutely. One thing that I know that people are well aware of and very supportive of is you partner with one of our local news outlets, Just Mel, and she's phenomenal. How did that relationship start? How does that partnership look?
Yeah, so I met Melanie in 2007 when I started at the News Times, and immediately we had a great relationship. We just, once again, car accident, middle of the night, something happens, there's something cool going on. It was always kind of Mel and I just grab cameras and go. And I always kind of relate it, I always say it's like a brother-sister thing where, I don't know, we just have a great close relationship. I respect Melanie more than probably almost anybody, especially in the field of journalism. absolutely the best, and I literally could not think of a person anywhere that I would say does what she does better than that. But we just kind of, after all these years of literally knowing her and working for almost 20 years together, it's like we finish each other's sentences. We don't even have to, our communication is shorthand, and we just work together really well. And so when she was no longer going to be working at the paper, she initially said, hey, I want to keep writing. I want to keep doing my editorial type column type stuff. Would you make me a blog? And so I said, sure. So I set it up. Well, knowing Mel, and she's the type of person that can't not work all the time, she was like, well, maybe I'll go cover this thing or go to this thing. Could I put that on my website? I'm like, well, it's your site. You can do whatever you want with it. So we added a news category, and she kind of started putting a little thing here and there. Next thing I know, it's a full-fledged news website, and she's just doing it. And it's not surprising, honestly, because of who she is. But it's been really fun. It feels like getting the gang back together. And I obviously don't do as much as I used to, but just being able to cover stuff for her or shoot photos of local events and that sort of stuff, it's fun, and it's great to see her doing what she does best.
Absolutely. And this is probably an ignorant question. I'm not in journalism, obviously, but how do you choose what to cover? I mean, there's so much, and especially, for example, with Mel, there's only so many people.
That's correct. I don't necessarily know if there's a good answer to that. It's for Mel. I mean, she does her website many hours a week, and then she works catering too many hours a week. Yeah. And so I think for her, it's scheduling. If she has time to do it and she can do it, she will do it. For me, it's availability, it's interest.
Yeah, fair.
There's sometimes she'll say, oh, can you go shoot some photos of this? And I think, I really don't want to go to that thing. And other times, I'm fortunate enough with working like with Parks and Rec. If it's a Parks and Rec based activity, then I kind of kill two birds with one stone. And hey, I'll go shoot photos for Mel and for Parks and Rec at the same time. So that's one of the ways for me I think that it works out best is if I can kind of double dip on a few of my clients and get things covered, it works out well. But yeah, otherwise I think the biggest thing I guess would be also the how important is it to the community? If it's something that's big, if there's a big vote going on or something that's just really important to town, then it's going to get prioritized and we're going to make sure it gets covered.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Southeast Community College and Tallgrass. Let's get back to the podcast. Kind of taking a step away from the media side of things, you're involved in a lot more than just that.
That's correct, yes.
One thing I know you're heavily involved in is our local skateboarding community. What drew you into that space? How did that all start?
So I skateboarded a little bit when I was a kid, but then I mostly grew up out on a farm-ish, and we didn't really have any concrete, so I didn't skateboard. And then when I went to college here in York, a buddy and I were both like, hey, we both like skateboarding. We want to skateboard. Let's get a really cheap board and learn. And so we just started doing it all the time, and I just loved it. It was so fun. It's such a great creative outlet. And after skating around York, which there's not a lot of great places to skate in York, we used to put some ramps on some tennis courts, and we would skate those at night. It's funny because we were told by some police officers we were allowed to do it, and then other police officers took our ramps, and then some kids started one of our ramps on fire at one time.
Oh my goodness,
So we had all sorts of issues, and then at one point I said, I think we just really need a good skate park in town. And I was beyond fortunate to have a public works director and a Parks and Rec director at the time who both had the foresight to understand the necessity and the importance of having a quality skate park in town. Mm-hmm. And they supported the project as much as I was. And that's really, really rare. With my knowledge of the skateboarding community in the United States, to have those two people who are probably the two most important people within a government, city government, to support your project is huge. But yeah, it took off. The city pretty much said you can have the land if you can raise the money. they did say to me, we've had people come here before, we've had people do this before, and everybody kind of fizzles out and it doesn't happen. And I don't know if they thought the same thing with me or not. It kind of felt like they thought that, but I don't remember. It was like 8 months later, I came back and said, "Oh, hey, I got the money." And I think someone were like, "Oh, crap! Now we got to give this guy a skate park now." But yeah, I did the fundraising, I did the work, I did the meetings, and also fortunate enough, I got to design the whole thing.
Wow!
And which is another rarity. I assume we would just get kind of prefabricated metal ramps, which is what most small towns were doing at the time. And the public works director said, "I'd rather do concrete. It's lower maintenance." And I said, "I never even thought that was an option. That's way better." And so that's what we got to build. And I got to work hand in hand with the city crews who built the whole thing, which is also unheard of. Normally you have a skate park company come do it, and it costs so much more money to do it that way. So we were just like everything lined up in an incredible way for us to be able to make what I still think is an awesome skate park overall, let alone in a town this size. And then the fact that now we have another Parks and Rec director who also is intelligent enough in foresight and everything that she allows us to continue to add to it and build to it and just make it better. And it's a destination. As a skateboarder, I went to Colorado last weekend, 2 weekends ago, and went to tons of skate parks. I do it every year. I go all over. I'm going to San Jose to skate parks. Like, skaters travel, and if you have a skate park that's decent at all, people are going to go there, and we get traffic to York specifically because of the skate park. So it's great for our community. We have lots of kids here, skaters and bikers and scooters that go use it, but the fact that it brings in people from out of town is a pretty cool thing too.
Yeah, and you saw it from its infancy
for sure
to today.
Yep.
That's really cool. How would you say, at least locally, that skateboarding community has evolved? Because there wasn't really anything, at first.
It's interesting, too, because, we had the question of, well, are there even any skaters in town? Why would we build this if there are no skaters? And my response was always, well, if you didn't have a tennis court in town, nobody would play tennis. If you didn't have a soccer field, nobody would play soccer. And so it was one of those, a little bit of a chicken and egg, also if you build it, they will come scenario. And it's interesting because it does kind of phase. We'll have phases of a bunch of kids are out there skating and trying stuff, and then those kids maybe graduate and move on, and then it goes down for a while. And so we do see it in waves, and it's interesting as someone who's consistently there to kind of see those groups of kids come in. And I always love seeing the new group come in of friends that you see come and enjoy it for a period of time. And on one hand, it's a little bit sad knowing, like, at some point they'll probably either stop skateboarding or they'll go to college or whatever, and that'll be that, and we'll have another group. But it's fun. And then we still do have a consistent group of us, I guess, quote, adults. I mean, I'm 44. I don't think of myself as an adult because I skateboard all the time. But, there's a handful of us, quote, adults who use it on a regular basis. And so that's nice to have that aspect of the community as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but that youth piece of it, youth aspect, why do you think spaces like this are so important for that youth community?
I think the biggest thing for me is just having kids have an outlet to do something. Too many people throw Gen Z and other groups under the bus with, they stare at screens all day, they do this, but I think half the time it's lack of opportunity. If I would have had screens when I was that age, I probably would have done that too if I didn't have anything else to do. And at some point, if you don't give people stuff to do, then they get bored, they get in trouble, they have problems. Skateboarding to me is such an amazing outlet because it's this outdoors, it's fresh air, it's exercise, it's creative. The cool thing about skateboarding compared to other sports, I'm not a big team sports guy. I'm not a competitive person at all. If you go play basketball, at the end of the day, you have to put the ball in the hoop. That's what it is. Skateboarding, if you like just rolling, if you like flipping your board, if you like going on railings, if you like jumping down stairs or half pipes, you can just do the aspect of skateboarding that you like. And there's no real rules behind what is or isn't skateboarding. And I love that because if some kid just likes riding a half pipe, he never has to jump on a railing or downstairs. And with other sports, they're so confined, it feels like, in my mind. But with skating, it's so creative and so individual that it just really allows kids to expand. And then honestly, I think the biggest thing with skateboarding, and lots of people have pointed this out over the years, is that it's hard. You fall, you get hurt a lot, especially in the beginning, and it kind of sucks. But the kids who push through it, I think you just have this level of internal motivation and grit and determinism. And I don't know, there's just not a lot of things you see where someone falls 5 feet onto concrete and then immediately gets up and tries it again.
Yeah.
You know, most people, if they fall off something onto concrete, they'd call it a day.
Right.
Skaters are more annoyed if they get hurt that they can't skate more than being hurt. So I just love seeing that for kids, because I think that really can then benefit them outside of the world of skateboarding, of just like pushing themselves beyond what's comfortable and beyond what they think they can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that there are a handful of events and different things that are put on annually. Yeah. Can you talk about those for a little bit?
Yeah, our biggest one is our Yorkfest event. We've tried some small ones here and there, but Yorkfest has just been a great, consistent one. The park's been open now for 13 years, and this will be our 13th Yorkfest contest. And it's just great because it's easy for people to prioritize it. So we do get a lot of out-of-town people. I think last year we had 40 skaters come, and we've had times when with nice weather that we'll have 100 spectators are just watching, and it's just such a fun time to see a large group of people enjoying the facility. And it's also great because I think it allows York community members to be able to see skating on a different level. Nothing against most of our local skaters, but even the best local skaters, honestly, are probably 50 to 75% as good as some of the kids on, there's a couple kids in Lincoln that are just on a completely different level. Yeah. And even for us, when they come to town and we get to watch them skate our park, it's so fun to see how good they are and what they can do. And then for our community to also get to witness that, I think is super fun. But the skate community, Nebraska specifically, is so tight-knit, and everybody, it's just an awesome community to be a part of. And it's cool because it spans races, genders, everything. I was skating with a guy 2 nights ago who's 65, turning 66 this fall. Okay. And he had a birthday party for his 65th in his backyard halfpipe, and we were all skateboarding. Cool. I literally was skating with a kid who's 16, and so it's just crazy how everybody just wants to hang out and have fun and skate, and you don't ever look at it as like, oh, that's a guy or a girl or this or that. It's just everybody's hanging out and skateboarding, and it's just such a cool thing. And so to get all those people to come to York for a day and get to hang out and see everybody, it's just it's a great time of year. I love it every year, and I always look forward to it.
Yeah, amazing. And it's coming up.
Yeah, so it's 4 weeks. It's September 6th, though. Yeah, so I guess technically in the podcast, it will have already gone, but
next year.
Yeah, we've already got a ton of people who are excited about it and talking about it. So it's just like I said, I always look forward to it, and I know a lot of other people do too.
Yeah, absolutely. So going and looking at just all of your involvement on a broad spectrum, do you have any advice for someone who's listening that wants to get involved in really that creative space?
My biggest thing for anyone doing anything creative is just find the thing that you love and just do it. When I was getting popular with drawing mazes, I'd get people who, you get kids watch YouTube and they're like, I want to be a YouTuber. And they watch this and they want to do that. People would see me, I'd sell a maze or something. People like, oh, dang, maybe I should start drawing mazes. I'm like, well, if you don't like drawing mazes, don't do it because you think it's going to make you money. Do the thing you love, and if at some point it makes you money, that's awesome. But that's really my thing, is find the thing you love to do and just do it and be the best at it. So if someone loves photography, go shoot thousands and thousands of photos and find out all the ways you're terrible and learn how to improve it, because that's the thing with creativity and artistic types of things, is there really aren't any rules or limits. But at the end of the day, if you're not good at it, people know you're not good at it.
Right?
It doesn't take much to look at a photo and be like, oh, that's not a great picture.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also something when you see a photo and you're like, generally most people just see it and immediately are like, wow, that's an amazing photo.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those differences are what people sometimes don't want to put in the work to learn. And so if you want to do anything on the creative side, just do the heck out of it until you just learn as much as you can. And I think it's always about learning. With me, with websites today are 100%, not 100%, but very different than they were 20 years ago. And if you're not motivated to continue learning and growing and educating yourself, as technology changes, you're just going to be left in the dust. And I think that's one of the biggest things too, is if you're interested in something, realize that's going to change as time goes on. So you need to stay with the times.
Okay. I love it. So we're going to move into kind of a fun segment before we end.
Okay.
We call it rapid fire. I don't know if that's the best name for it,
Okay.
but we're just going to run with it.
Okay.
Favorite piece of gear or software that you can't live without?
I mean, right now, my still camera that is kind of my go-to camera. It's a Sony A6700, which means nothing to most people. But it's just a really nice camera, and I've used it enough that I know where all the settings are and everything. I can adjust it on the fly. Mm-hmm. And, you know, just that with one of my lenses and hanging out with my friends skateboarding, shooting pictures. I mean, that's a perfect scenario right there.
Yeah. So I think you already answered this question, but coffee shop, skate park, behind the camera, where is your favorite place to be?
Definitely not the coffee shop. I don't drink coffee.
Okay, fair enough.
But still, support your local coffee shops in York, Nebraska, if you do. I think, just literally, I'm a big vacation guy though. So I guess the two things I'll say is, one, on a skate trip, shooting photos of my friends skateboarding, or two, on vacation with my wife, because those are like the two best things that I can do. I love them. Yeah.
Absolutely. Who inspires you creatively?
There's a handful of skateboard photographers that I consistently see. There's a guy, Matt Price, from Arizona originally, and his company gave me some money the second time I broke a world record to help sponsor it. And he's just a really outside the box thinker when it comes to skateboard photography. And I just love seeing what he does that's kind of not the normal. It's so easy to do the standard normal thing and sometimes get in that like rut. And then I'll see something that he does that's totally different. And it's just like, it makes me realize, okay, how could I get a different angle or change something? I mean, he shot a photo a couple years ago that was a cover of a magazine. It was a guy doing a trick over a trash can. He put his camera in the bottom of the trash can and then used a stick to push the shutter button to take the photo. And the photo is just this amazing photo looking straight up at the sky of the top of the trash can. And once again, it's just, he's always creative and different. And so anytime I see anything from that guy, it gets me motivated.
Absolutely. What is your current favorite photo or video project that you've worked on?
My annual skateboard magazine that I produce has been a lot of fun. And last year's issue, I feel like the first issue was a big learning curve because I'd never made a magazine and never really done anything like that. And so then last year's was issue 2. It came out in January 2025 here. And I feel like that just really came together well. The cover, a skateboarding magazine cover, is like one of the most coveted, important things you can get, especially with an annual magazine, because it's kind of like there's one cover a year. And so there was a photo that I had been working on, and a kid had been trying to get a trick. And at some point I realized, I'm like, this could make the cover, but I have to figure out how to, because it has to be shot vertically. And so I'm like, how can I shoot it that way? And can he land it in time? And he actually spent 4 trips, a total of 9 hours, trying to get this one skate trick. And I shot photos the entire time he was doing it. But honestly, the process, my photos were getting better and better because I was like, okay, maybe I should move my flash over here. Or maybe I should adjust here. And so the last time he came, I had a 6-foot ladder. I had 2 flashes. I had done all these things. And it just culminated in like the perfect moment of my favorite photo I took was the one that he landed and rolled away, and it was just like
cool.
absolutely perfect. It was a week after deadline, and so I was kind of already stressing, and it just all came together. So I think right now, like that photo and that issue of the magazine is just like, it came out perfect, really.
Neat.
And so now I have another one coming out this January that I'm stressing over that I have to try to do it again.
Course.
So I guess I'm glad it's annual, not monthly, because it would be way too much stress at that point.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding. If someone was interested and they want to see the magazine, how do they do that?
So we have a website, 5050mag.com. We're also on Instagram, and feel free to check it out. It's basically local skaters and photographers all throughout Nebraska. And yeah, it's just a cool annual magazine of kids out there putting in work in the streets, jumping down stairs and throwing themselves down stuff just for me to have fun shooting photos and put it together. But it's a lot of fun. And then we do a big event to release the magazine. This last year we did it at the Bourbon Theater in Lincoln. Some kids had made a skateboard video in Lincoln as well. So we did the magazine release, then we showcased the video right afterwards. We had over 250 people attend, and it was super fun. I can't wait to do it again this year. So probably the last weekend in January of 2026, we'll do it again.
Okay.
And we'll hopefully fill the bourbon up again.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. To wrap it up, one thing most people don't know about you.
Oh, man. I would have said the maze thing, but just because you didn't know it, but everybody else pretty much knows that. I'm obsessed with cats, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. My daughter just moved to Lincoln this weekend and took her cat, and that was pretty devastating for me.
Oh, no.
I've been with that cat every day for 4 years, and so now the cat's gone. But in an optimal scenario, I would own about probably 40 cats, and I'd love to get a Maine Coon that's like the size of a golden retriever, and then just lay with that cat all day. So my wife always says she's worried that she's going to die first, and then I'll become some old man with a house full of cats.
Yeah.
And I think that sounds pretty awesome, actually. So so there you go. There, I have a cat obsession.
Okay. Yeah. Good to know. All right. So thank you so much for joining us today. For people tuning in, one last plug. How do they get in touch with you?
So you can go to eckertdigital.com. That's my business. And otherwise, I'm on Instagram, Facebook-ish, not really. So yeah, just go to eckertdigital.com. Feel free to hit me up. I'm happy to talk about websites, photos, videos, skateboarding, or anything else. If people just want to chit-chat, feel free to hit me up.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. I really appreciate it. I know that I learned stuff. I'm sure that our listener did too. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
That's a wrap on another episode of the 17 County Podcast. As always, thank you for joining us to explore the business leaders, community champions, and transformational efforts shaping our regional economy. A final word of appreciation to our stakeholders: Central Valley Ag, Clutie Inc., Overland Ready Mixed, Collins Aerospace, Meade Lumber Company, Perennial Public Power District, Henderson State Bank, Midwest Bank, York State Bank, K-Junction, OPPD, and Nebraska Public Power District. Your investment doesn't just support this podcast, it strengthens York County's momentum in innovation, growth, and long-term resilience. Until next time, stay engaged, stay informed, and continue supporting the businesses and partners that make our communities thrive.